There are 195 countries in the world, but only 35 of them are considered truly wealthy. What happened to the other 160? They fell into a trap, and most of them will never escape. Let's start with a question that economists have been fighting over for decades. Why are poor countries still poor? You would think that with globalization, with technology, with international trade, every country should be moving forward. But the reality is brutally different. Most developing nations are stuck in what economists call the middle-income trap. Here's how it works. A country starts poor. It has cheap labor. Foreign companies come in. Factories open. People get jobs. The economy starts growing. GDP goes up. Everything looks amazing. But then something strange happens. The growth stops. The country is no longer poor enough to compete on cheap labor, but it's not rich enough to compete on innovation and technology. It's stuck in the middle. And this middle? It's quicksand. Countries like Brazil, South Africa, Thailand, Mexico, Turkey, and even Argentina have been stuck in this trap for decades. They grew fast in the beginning, and then they just plateaued. Meanwhile, countries like South Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan broke through. They escaped, but they are the rare exceptions, not the rule. So what exactly goes wrong? Why can't most countries break free? Here's the part nobody talks about. The very thing that makes a country grow in the beginning is the same thing that destroys it later. When a country is poor, its biggest advantage is cheap labor. Workers accept low wages. Companies love it. They set up manufacturing plants. Exports increase. Money flows in. But here's the catch. Cheap labor is not a permanent advantage. As the economy grows, wages start rising. Workers want better pay. The cost of production increases. And suddenly those foreign companies, they pack their bags and move to an even cheaper country. This is exactly what happened when factories moved from China to Vietnam, from Vietnam to Bangladesh, from Bangladesh to Ethiopia. The cycle keeps repeating. The country that relied on cheap labor is now left with rising costs, but without the technology, education, or innovation to compete at a higher level. It's like climbing a ladder, and someone pulls away the bottom rungs while the top rungs are still out of reach. But cheap labor isn't even the biggest problem. The real killer is something far more dangerous, and it lives inside the government itself. Weak institutions are the silent assassins of economic growth. In most trapped countries, corruption is not a bug, it's a feature. The system runs on it. Politicians make policies that benefit their friends, their families, their donors, not the people. When a country's legal system is weak, when property rights are not protected, when contracts can be broken without consequences, investors run away. And without investment, there is no growth. Look at the difference between North Korea and South Korea. Same people, same culture, same starting point, but completely different institutions. One became a global powerhouse. The other became a prison. Institutions matter more than natural resources, more than geography, more than population size. Nigeria has more oil than Norway. But Norway is one of the richest countries in the world, while Nigeria still struggles with poverty. Why? Institutions, governance, rule of law. Now here's something that will genuinely shock you. Some countries are spending billions on education and still getting poorer. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer, right? Invest in education and the economy will grow. That's the theory. But in reality, many countries are producing millions of graduates who have no skills the market actually needs. Universities are churning out degrees in subjects that don't translate to jobs. Students spend 4 years memorizing textbooks, but they can't solve real-world problems. They can't innovate. They can't build. Meanwhile, countries that escaped the trap, like South Korea, completely restructured their education systems. They aligned education with industry needs. They invested in STEM. They created a culture of research and development. The result? South Korea went from being poorer than Ghana in the 1960s to becoming one of the most technologically advanced nations on Earth. Education without strategy is just expensive daycare. And just when you think it can't get worse, enter the debt trap. The hole that gets deeper the more you try to climb out. Most developing countries borrow money to fund their growth. They take loans from the World Bank, the IMF, from China, from private lenders. In the beginning, it seems smart. Borrow money, build infrastructure, grow the economy, pay back the loan. But what actually happens? The money gets mismanaged, projects get delayed, corruption eats into the budget, the infrastructure never gets completed, or it gets completed at 3 times the original cost. Now the country has debt, but no real growth to show for it. So what do? They borrow more money just to pay off the old debt. This is the debt spiral. Countries like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Zambia, and Lebanon have all fallen into this pit. Sri Lanka literally went bankrupt in 2022. People were standing in lines for fuel. The president fled the country. And here's the darkest part. Some of these loans come with strings attached. Countries lose control over their own ports, their own land, their own resources. They become economically colonized, not by armies this time, but by debt. So, if the trap is this deadly, how did countries like South Korea, China, and Singapore break free? What did they do differently? The answer comes down to 4 things. 1. Strong leadership with a long-term vision. Countries that escaped had leaders who thought in decades, not election cycles. Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore didn't care about being popular. He cared about being effective. 2. Massive investment in technology and innovation. South Korea didn't just build factories, they built Samsung, Hyundai, LG. They went from making cheap products to making the best products. 3. Ruthless focus on education reform. Not just more schools, but better schools. Schools that teach critical thinking, problem solving, and entrepreneurship. 4. Fighting corruption like it's a war. Singapore made corruption so costly that no one dared to try it. The punishment was severe, and the enforcement was real. These countries didn't just get lucky. They made hard, painful, and often unpopular decisions. They sacrificed short-term comfort for long-term prosperity. And now the part that nobody wants to hear. The truth is, most countries will not escape this trap, not because they can't, but because the political will isn't there. Because the people in power benefit from the broken system. Because reform is painful, and pain doesn't win elections. It's easier to promise free things than to build real systems. It's easier to blame other countries than to fix your own institutions. It's easier to borrow money today and let the next generation deal with the consequences. The economic trap isn't just about economics. It's about human nature. It's about our tendency to choose comfort over progress, short-term gains over long-term growth. And until countries and their people are willing to make hard choices, the trap will remain exactly where it is. Waiting. So the next time you hear a politician promise that everything will get better, ask yourself, are they building a ladder to escape the trap? Or are they just rearranging the furniture inside the cage? Because the trap doesn't care about speeches. It doesn't care about promises. It only breaks when someone is brave enough to do what's hard. The question is, who's willing to go first? If this video made you think differently about the world, hit that subscribe button. I make videos that challenge what you thought you knew. See you in the next one.